Another casualty of the terrible economics that are going on in the world today, and just not everything working out as they had hoped, but something also deeper going on here with this because I personally was involved a little bit. And today was announced from Niantic that they were going to be canceling a whole bunch of projects, that a whole bunch of people in their company would be laid off. And one of those little things are part of the Transformer world. Now, for people that aren't aware, Niantic was the company that was behind the ridiculously successful Pokemon Go mobile app. When that app debuted in 2016, it was a juggernaut, to say the least, a cultural phenomenon, as it is quoted by this Bloomberg report, and had made over $1 billion on this free-to-play app that had, in all honesty, all kinds of pay-to-win kind of stuff to it. As someone who played that game religiously during, I'd have to say, the first 3 to 4 years, I never put a penny into it. And I didn't have to, because as long as you moved around and you're hanging out with a bunch of people, you didn't have to put anything into it. So the fact that it made over $1 billion is a credit to the shark infested water that is the mobile world and the people that play them. Absolutely crazy. So that was a huge phenomenon. It worked incredibly well for both the Pokemon brand and everything related to the Pokemon brand, for Nintendo and its IP. It was just fantastic. And Niantic reaped the rewards of it. So Flint Dille, best known as one of the writers and producers of the original 1986 Transformers movie, essentially was working at Niantic at the time, just coincidentally, and it was like, hey, why don't we do a Transformers, AR kind of Pokemon Go kind of game? And they put, things together, and essentially Transformers Heavy Metal was born. And it made its beta test kind of soft landing in June of 2021. And a whole bunch of people within the Transformer community were brought on to beta test. I was one of them. And man, oh man, like, I have to say this thing was plagued with problems from the get-go. I understand this Niantic report is talking about, they got rid of 85 to 90 jobs and they're having financial issues, and a lot of their other games that they tried to get off the ground didn't work, because they had a Harry Potter AR game in 2019 that didn't work. They tried a Nintendo Pikmin game that didn't work. They've had a lot of different problems, and they were, again, to quote Niantic Chief Executive Officer John Hank, facing a time of economic turmoil. Just to let those investors know, hey, don't pull out just yet. We still need your money. But I felt that this game was snakebit to begin with, even before the big V came and ruined everything 2021 moving forward. There was a lot of problems, especially as someone who had played Pokemon Go religiously and knew all the ins and outs of what crashed and when there was problems, and just playing the game, on hand, and then doing the exact same thing with the exact same passion for Transformers Heavy Metal, because I freaking love that brand, and seeing all the problems already from the get-go. Like, for people that weren't aware, Transformers Heavy Metal, how it played itself, was much like Pokemon Go. You went out into the open environment and you found Pokemon and you captured them, and then you battled at, little stations and stuff like that to catch legendary Pokemon. And then, of course, the game evolved throughout the years with one-on-one battles. It's a whole thing that went on over the past, 7 years now since the game's debut. Heavy Metal, its kind of thing was same thing like Pokemon Go, walking around your neighborhood and your environment and interacting with things, but instead of it being Pokestops where you could get Pokeballs and stuff like that, you had little stations where you could get a whole bunch of items and little pieces and everything to power up your characters. Essentially, you had a partner, which you started with Bumblebee, and then as you played throughout the game, you would unlock other partners, and then you could choose which partner you want to have with you all the time, kind of like your main buddy that will be your guy that will fight. And then you'd encounter Decepticons that would randomly appear like Pokemon, and then you would fight those Decepticons, use that to level up your character, gain more weapons and stuff. And then you'd also find Minicons, and you could capture these Minicons and then use these Minicons to power up your partner character to make him stronger. So the Pokemon collectability access similarities were that with the mini-cons to Pokemons, kind of like how it was all those years ago with Armada, and you just collected a bunch of mini-cons. And they were unique. They had all these mini-cons, all with these unique names and backstories, and they transformed into little things. It was fun. I liked it. But it wasn't without its problems. There was a lot of slowdown issues. There was, the first mistake that I thought they did is the second you start attaching mini-cons to your partner character, they would appear on the overworld map screen as you walked around. The more mini-cons you attach, the more assets were on the screen. So it's fine when you and Bumblebee or Hound or Windblade or whatever are walking around, but when you have all like 5 or 6 mini-cons walking with you and it already starts to slow down, and then, oh my God, here comes 5 or 6 Decepticons that spawn on the screen, and then your phone just crashes. And then you're screwed because if you keep respawning in that area, it's going to keep crashing. And that was a big problem because when this game debuted for beta testers in 2021, the newest iPhone was the iPhone 12, and they even said right out of the bat, if you use an iPhone 8 or less, it's not going to work. And the iPhone 8 had support up until 2020, so already off the bat, you had to have a really good phone just to kind of play the game. Where even Pokemon Go, when it debuted in 2016, iPhone 4Ss, which were like 6 years old at that point, still worked with Pokemon Go. So right away, the player band was significantly shrunken. Now, granted, I think part of it also was they probably were hoping to maybe launch later. And when they would launch later, phones would be, more commonly updated, and what was, again, iPhone 12s would be a common thing, and, we'd be at 13 now. But that really wasn't the case, and it was plagued with slowdown issues, crashing all the time. And really, as someone who played the game hardcore, you kind of peak. You kind of unlock all the characters after maybe a month and a half of really grinding at it. You get all the mini-cons, you get all the characters, you unlock everybody, you play the story beats, and that's it. And that's all within a month where, something like Pokemon Go, some people were at it for religiously for months and months and months, and they barely got, 150 of the, original 150. Some people still to this day have not. So it's kind of crazy how they kind of made a half-baked kind of game. A great idea, a lot of cool ideas there. I really liked what I saw, but it wasn't completely finished. And during the beta testing, we already kind of saw the little chinks in the armor, and it just started to get worse and worse. And I think that considering how long it's taken for them to make a public release of the game, how it was constantly permanently in beta testing because there was always all kinds of problems that we were addressing, and they'd be like, yeah, we're on that, we're going to fix that crashing, and it never got fixed. And it would, what would be a report, 1 month would be 5 months, 6 months, a year, and they still haven't fixed the crashing. We kind of knew, I think it was probably done. It probably was, and this kind of confirms it in a lot of ways. And it's a shame because I really enjoyed it. It was a fun little experience because I loved Pokemon Go, and a Transformer equivalency of that would be fine. And using Armada's own little Pokemon kind of element to it, to add to it, was a smart move. But there still was a lot missing. And I think the big thing, too, not enough licensed characters. If you're going to attract people to this, I understand you want to, put your own little seal on it and create some new characters, too. But outside of your partners and a few different Decepticons that you fought, it was a lot of generics. It was a lot of drones. All the mini-cons were original creations, and there was a whole bunch of them, but not a single iconic mini-con. So none of those trademarks were used. If you were going to collect like small stuff, why not have also mini-bots be part of it? Why not have Outback and, Huffer and all these little characters help you too then if you want to include mini-bots and mini-cons and Micromasters maybe. A lot of things that I think I would have handled differently, because it's all about how you brand the IP and how you show your best foot forward. And when you're marketing to a general audience, you really want to look slick, and then you want to kind of capture that one small piece of information that they remember. It's like if you're going to go see that X-Men movie back in the day, it's like, oh yeah, I remember the X-Men cartoon and Fox in the 90s. Get that guy. If he even remembers even 1% of that. And yeah, you got Bumblebee. You got Optimus Prime. and you got like a whole bunch of villain characters that maybe some people would remember. But that was really it. So not a lot of people know who Windblade is from the general audience, or Hound, and all of these mini-cons were no names. So there was a lot of weird things in how they went about it. But again, they're not marketing experts in general, I guess. They probably should have hired someone that had a little bit of a breast of knowledge in the Transformer world. But that's for a whole other conversation. But, well, that's the end of it. Transformers Heavy Metal is canceled. It's done. And once again, yet another mobile game in the Transformer world rises, does its thing, and then disappears, never to be seen ever again. I'm just happy that I kind of documented a bunch of images and stuff of this game and like tried to take as many photos as possible, because this is just going to be a cliff note in the history of Transformer video games. And it was a fun one, but not free of all the problems it was plagued with. Let me know what you think. It's kind of a shame, but that's mobile gaming in general.